Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org.
At the Boise Art Museum right now, there are almost 1,000 hand-painted plates on display. The blue and white dishes show detailed illustrations of comfort foods like spaghetti and pancakes and hamburgers, the last meals of death row inmates.
You have to wonder what kind of life they lived for that to be the case.
I'm Julie Luqueta. Find my report and pictures of the Last Supper exhibit at boisestatepublicradio.org.
From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Gemma Gaudette. This is Idaho Matters. Once you've gone home from your favorite restaurant after a delicious meal and they close the doors for the night, what happens to the food that wasn't sold? Now, most of the time, it goes into the trash can, adding to the needless waste that stacks up in our landfills. But what if there was a group that gathered up those meals and the extra food and produce and somehow got them to local organizations that serve those in need? Well, turns out there is. Since 2017, Rolling Tomato has been recovering more and more meals, and it will provide 350,000 pounds of food this year to those in need. The organization is one of 122 nonprofits submitted to Giving Tuesday at Boise State Public Radio, where we highlight organizations doing inspiring work in our communities. And they are one of two recipients of $1,000 in on-air messaging. Julie D'Agostino is the founder and executive director of Rolling Tomato, and she's joining us now to talk more. Julie, nice to have you on the show.
Great to be here. Thank you, Gemma.
So, Julie, how did Rolling Tomato get started?
I moved here in the fall of 2016, and I had been doing food recovery volunteering for a fledgling organization out of state. And when I moved here, I had some time on my hands and wanted to make myself useful. So I looked for an organization that was doing point-to-point pickup and delivery of fresh and freshly prepared foods, and I couldn't find one. So I did a little investigation into possible food donors and possible food recipients to figure out where the kinks were. And I realized that I had some idea of how to connect the two. So I started it as a project the month after I got here.
So tell us exactly how it works. Walk us through the process. I mean, how does the food get from the restaurant to your partners?
Sure. We pick up directly from some restaurants, food producers, wholesale produce distributors, corporate cafeterias, all sorts of places that have, either commercial kitchens. And we pick it up. We work with them to find a convenient time for them to pick up their excess food that's still perfectly good, but they just don't need it anymore. And we work with food recipient organizations, primarily nonprofit organizations, to figure out what types of food that they can use. And then we basically play matchmaker, and we do all the pickup and delivery. I have a team of about 30 plus volunteers, one full-time person, and we have one part-time person.
And where does the food go exactly, Julie? I mean, what organizations? You said you work with nonprofits, but what organizations exactly do you work with to make sure the food gets distributed?
We work with about over 30 food recipients, including nonprofits like Corpus Commons, Valor Point, Good Samaritan Home, food pantries around Boise, Eagle, and Canyon County. We work with schools that have school food pantries and resource centers, senior residences, all types of places that we work with them, like I was saying, to make sure that we're providing the type of food that they can utilize for the people that they serve.
Can you talk about one of your partners in particular? Tell us about your work with Charlie's Produce, which is located in
Sure.
Boise.
Yeah, Charlie's Produce is wonderful to work with. We pick up pallets of excess produce, and for them, it's a large company, so it's probably a very small percentage of what they have that's excess, but for us, we can make it go really far. We pick up about 5,000 pounds of food per week, and it's almost entirely fresh produce. Some of it's, minimally chopped and things like that for, say, restaurant use. Some of it is individual boxes of lemons and pears and and just wonderful, wonderful produce. And we get that. We have teams of people that arrive and they put it all in their vehicles and they drive to 2, 3, or 4 different locations each. So what we're really doing is getting something that's, fresh and still very good and quickly getting it out. So theoretically, someone could receive produce that we picked up the same morning and have it in the afternoon or the evening.
So you said you get about 5,000 pounds a week just from Charlie's Produce. That is a shockingly large number. I mean, I would have thought you would have said maybe like 100 pounds a week. Is so are most people fairly surprised when you tell them, I mean, the amounts of excess food that is out there?
Well, we pick up about 7,000 pounds of food per week. So,
Mhm.
that number even stuns me because when I first started, I think I collected 7,000 pounds the first year by myself. So the fact that we're doing that
Wow.
every week is pretty amazing. Most people are surprised. We love to have people come and do ride-alongs with us to actually pick up some food and just see the quality and the quantity of what we get and where it goes. It really is, meaningful. So, we're not only keeping it perfectly good food out of the landfill, but we're providing it to, like you had said in the intro, organizations for the people that they serve. And then we're also doing sort of a third piece, which is we're assisting nonprofits by decreasing their food budgets so that they can fund
Mm.
other areas for their operations. But it is a large amount of food. It takes a while to build up to as many food donors as we have. We can always use more food donors so that we could bring our food even further out to the community and to organizations. It is kind of a surprising number, but like I said, because we have so many great volunteers, they're scheduled for a certain shift, so they become very familiar with the food donor and the food recipient and what's going to work well for each side. And we just manage it that way. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't be able to do this without the amazing volunteers that we have.
Mhm. So you mentioned the landfill. Can we talk a little bit more about this? Because I mean, of course, I mean it's so important that you're able to, make sure that this food gets in the hands of people in need. Also, I mean, keeping, 7,000 pounds of food a week out of the landfill has to be incredibly significant.
It really is. It is a number that is surprising to many. The reality is we're getting things like, cooked frozen chicken, a great protein. We're getting, as I mentioned, produce. We're getting salads and sandwiches and wraps and all sorts of, food from fast casual restaurants as well. There's so much there. And, it's just inconceivable to me that this could possibly go into a landfill. This needs to be going into bellies, not
Mhm.
not wasted. With food going into the landfill, of course, that produces greenhouse gases, methane, CO2. So this year alone, we've prevented 1,389,000 pounds of greenhouse gases.
Wow.
Just think
Wow.
about that for a minute. The hot, fast gases and the, less the long-term gases that would be in
Mhm.
our environment. So it makes no sense to see this perfectly good food go to waste.
So here you moved here in 2016. You start this on your own. As you said, the first year you collected about 7,000 pounds by yourself. It's now 7,000 pounds a week. And you're
Mhm.
expanding. I just saw you are now working in Valley County. Talk to us about that.
Sure. Well, through our partner, Charlie's Produce, we discussed with them the idea of getting food up to some areas that are a little too far for our volunteers to go. And they have trucks that are doing deliveries. So they're the first one to do a pilot project to bring up, a few boxes of produce, well chosen, for the McCall Community Center, which is also the senior center, which also has
Mm.
a pantry in it. So the food that we provide for them, uh, which is mainly produce and probably some restaurant style prepared produce, think cut carrots or celery and onion mixes, things like that. They can use those for their senior meals, as well as the other produce they can put into the community pantry.
Julie, what kind of difference, I mean, is this truly making in our communities?
Well, as early as last summer, we were asking some of our food pantry partners what the increase that they've seen in terms of numbers of visitors, and it was up 30-40%. And that was well
Mm.
before the SNAP pause. So you can
Hmm.
imagine some of them are seeing, double the amount of visitors. I know some of the shelters are seeing and serving double the number of people for meals and other services. So, any amount of food that's well chosen, that goes to these organizations and can help them, it's has a tremendous impact, both for the organization as well as what I call the end eaters.
Mhm. And Julie, what if there's a restaurant out there that wants to become a part of this? How do they do that?
Yeah, it's really easy. They can contact us at rollingtomato.org. We have a contact us form, and they can learn more about the process if they want to understand how safe it is. And, there are federal laws on the books to protect them as food donors. And then we can chat about what they may have, how often, and get them scheduled for pickups. And we really try to work hard so that it's convenient for our food donors. We try not to go during the busy times, work with the staff. If it's easier for them to work in the mornings before the day
Mm.
gets hectic, that's great. We really try to make it as unintrusive as possible on both ends of our delivery, pickup and delivery.
And what about volunteers? I mean, I would think that this need is not going to go away. In fact, it's going to probably grow. So, do you need volunteers?
We're always looking for volunteers. The majority of our volunteers are drivers using their own vehicles, which is, amazing to me, their own time, their own gas. Um, and but we also need other volunteers for help with things like fundraising or marketing, or, any number of other functions to really help us get the word out about what we do and how to help us.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time to talk with us. We've been speaking with Julia DiAgostino. She is the founder and executive director of Rolling Tomato. And we've been talking about what they do to recover excess food from Treasure Valley restaurants and suppliers and to get it to those in need. Now, the organization is one of 122 nonprofits submitted to Giving Tuesday at Boise State Public Radio, where we highlight organizations doing inspiring work in our communities. And they are one of two recipients of $1,000 in on-air messaging. Our other winner was the Boise Bicycle Project, and you can hear our interview with them at our website, boisestatepublicradio.org. I'm Gemma Gaudette, and this is Idaho Matters.
Looking for another podcast to listen to? Check out The Nature of Idaho from our partner station KISU in Eastern Idaho. Join hosts Peter Pruitt and Dr. Leif Tapanilla as they share fascinating stories from the Gem State's great outdoors, celebrating Idaho's wildlife, landscape, and natural wonders. That's The Nature of Idaho from KISU. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.